Oh my god, thank God you're here. It's me, Snorkel Orca. I need your guys' help really badly. There are a ton of wasps in my apartment, and I just don't know how to get rid of them because I don't know what type of wasp they are. All I know is that they remind me a lot of Buzz from Donkey Kong Country 3, Dixie Kong's Double Trouble. Wait, no, that's it. If I figure out what type of wasp Buzz is from Donkey Kong Country 3, Dixie Kong's Double Trouble, then maybe I can figure out what type of wasps these are, and I can finally get rid of these goddamn bees. Yeah. So, in our last species classification video, where we looked at what species of beaver Gnawty is, I received a comment from Mano_YN, who said very kindly, asked very kindly, same thing.
Please cover the Buzz from Donkey Kong Country next. It's an important enemy, I feel. I would like to know its origin, please and thank you.
Now, I'm not gonna lie, I was really excited to get this suggestion from Mano, because not only do I love engaging with you guys and taking your recommendations and putting them into my videos, but Buzz is also just a really cool enemy. I mean, it has exhaust pipes poking out of it, buzzsaw. Is it even a bee? So, Buzz is a robot. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know if I can classify this. I mean, I can't technically classify any of these because I'm not a biologist. I like to make movies and shit. But at least, Gnawty's a beaver, Clump is a crocodile, but Buzz, I mean, hey, if it didn't have its, buzzsaw or its exhaust pipes, then it would be a bee, but, Oh shit, well, if it just didn't have that, then it would be a bee. Okay, I'll just look at it that way. Cool. So yeah, first we're gonna have to analyze some of Buzz's key traits.
Loading. Buzz traits.
In Donkey Kong Country 3, Buzz comes mainly in the colors of green and red, but in the, I guess, kind of render art for the game, Buzz comes in the colors of green and pink. Don't know why there's really that inconsistency, but because green is the overlap, that's kind of the color we're going to be targeting with this. Buzzes can also vary widely in size. They can get to be up as They can get to be about as big as Dixie Kong, but they can also be really small, as seen in the level Riverside Race, where they're these tiny little variants, and they're all collected up in a swarm, and they chase after you through the river. Their bodies also tend to be pretty round and less angular, as opposed to Zingers, which are the other common bee enemy in the Donkey Kong Country series. They're pretty angular. Buzzes aren't. They're round. And of course, there is the elephant in the room of the fact that Buzzes have mechanical parts to them. Their appearance. They have like 6 exhaust pipes poking out of their sides, 3 on each side specifically, and a giant buzzsaw on their back, which their name implies. I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna exempt that from appearance because, what the fuck? That's insane. I'm gonna exempt it from the appearance, but I am, however, going to be keeping it in mind when looking at Buzz's behavior. So, Buzz has a buzzsaw and exhaust pipes. This kind of, to me, might infer that the species of bee that we're looking for will have kind of like a behavior or like purpose that exhaust pipes do, which is to regulate heat. So, I mean, all bees kind of regulate heat very well, but we're going to want to look for one that really excels at doing so. Also, looking at a buzzsaw, what are buzzsaws used for? They're used for cutting through things like wood or like sheet metal, maybe plastic, but pretty much mostly wood. So that's kind of another behavioral trait we're going to look for in whichever species of bee that we're going to find and attach to Buzz. Buzzes can also be, pretty aggressive. I mean, they don't like specifically chase after you in the game, but they do damage you. They are enemies, and often, they either patrol from side to side or they just kind of like stay still. And again, as I said earlier, they can come in swarms. Buzzes also don't really seem to live in colonies. It's not to say that, like, this is, like, a known fact, but unlike Zingers, which are the other common bee-type enemies in the Donkey Kong Country series, we actually see in Donkey Kong Country 1 that they have a queen, and in Donkey Kong Country 2, we actually take a peek at their colony and their king, King Zing. So yeah, they very clearly have an established, colony, whereas Buzz's, on the other hand, they don't. And lastly for Buzz, we're just going to kind of look at what its habitats are. Buzzes are found in places like caves, kind of like snowy tundra forest places, normal forests, by rivers and waterfalls, and they are also found in factories and pipe systems. Keep that in mind, pipe systems. This is very important. So, at least to me, kind of the first example, or I guess first candidate of a species of wasp or bee to look at would be the giant Asian hornet. To me, these are kind of just like the classic big, scary, mean bee, and so, I thought I'd take a look at it because Buzz is a giant, big, scary, mean bee. First off, something we have going for them is that they're large. I mean, that's just kind of in their name. I'm not even going to specify how big they are. I don't know, but yeah. They're also very aggressive. I mean, they're hornets. They patrol around. They have that behavior. That's something they exhibit. However, they really don't have a lot going for them. They're very angular. They're not really round and circular like our Buzzes are. They also can't regulate their body heat very well. One way that honeybees will kill them is by surround them and flap their wings really fast and burn them to death with friction. So they're not great at regulating heat, which Buzz probably is because of their exhaust pipes. Yeah, and then the giant Asian hornets, they're yellow, kind of like sometimes an orange, a bit of a reddish tint, but, they don't really cross into the territory of being green, red, or pink. So that's another thing that's just not going for them. They have colonies. They're not really kind of solitary. And last but not least, they can't cut through wood, plastic, or sheet metal. They fucking suck. They're not even close to what we're looking for. Since we've moved past the giant Asian hornet, I really want to take a look at our second candidate, and this bee is something very special. This is the carpenter bee. So the carpenter bee, immediately, just looking at its appearance, it's pretty big and round. It's got that round body shape. Their size is from it varies widely. They can be as small as 3/8 of an inch up to an entire inch, which I think is some pretty big variation. These guys also cut through wood. They are specifically very fond of redwood, which is kind of like the type of wood that we see in the northern hemisphere. Who knows if it's actually redwood because, it's the Donkey Kong universe or whatever. But they look like giant redwood trees, and that is something that carpenter bees like to cut into. More specifically, the way it cuts into wood is by kind of carving tunnels on the inside, and this is sort of where they live. Kind of similar to how Buzz can be found in pipe systems. Now you might be saying, oh Nathan, isn't pipes and tunnels, aren't they different? Well, have you ever thought that let me put it this way, a pipe is something that water and air moves through. A tunnel is something that cars move through. They're both cylindrical, they're both tubes. The only difference is that one has cars and bees moving through it and the other one has water. So if you really think about it, tunnels are just pipes for cars or bees, okay? So there we go, they pretty much live in pipes. Anyway, another cool thing about carpenter bees is that they don't live in colonies. They're pretty solitary. However, because they don't live in colonies, they're not really aggressive just because they don't have a huge nest to protect. That's not to say though that they can't come in swarms. They can't come in swarms, but there can be infestations of them, and if they get angry at you, which, I mean, they might if you're stepping on their tunnels or pipes, sorry, then they'd probably start stinging you, and that would kind of be like a swarm, but technically not a swarm, but they can come in big numbers in really small sizes. This species of bee is also kind of like just found all over the world except for Antarctica. I'm pretty sure this is true. It's what I read. Sorry if I'm wrong. But they're pretty much just like found everywhere, and that's very similar to where buzz is found, because buzz is found by waterfalls, by rivers and forests and factories and pipes. It's everywhere, just like the carpenter bee. Another similarity with carpenter bees and buzzes are that, I don't know grammar. It's that the carpenter bees, the males at least, patrol around, just kind of like how buzzes do, and some of them even can just stand guard stationarily, like buzzes. Also, due to the large size of carpenter bees, they're able to regulate their body heat very well. Kind of like better than most other bees. I'm pretty sure bumblebees are better than carpenter bees technically. So they're not the best, but they're pretty damn good at it. Lastly, if you've been paying attention, you might have noticed that I forgot to touch on the color of the carpenter bee, and most of the time they're yellow. However, there is a subtype of the carpenter bee called the Peacock Carpenter Bee, and can you guess what color it comes in? A metallic green. That's crazy. That's crazy. I didn't even know that bees could come in that color, and they look really pretty and all metallic-y and shiny and green, just like buzzes, because they're robots and they're made of metal and they're green. If it weren't for the fact that carpenter bees aren't like really aggressive, this would be the perfect match. I mean, you could even argue that it's the perfect match, because maybe you could say the only reason why buzzes are aggressive and harm the Kongs is because they're just like protecting their territory, because they're not like specifically going after them. I feel like that's kind of hard to look at, kind of hard to determine. So I'm just gonna say that carpenter bees don't line up with buzzes in terms of aggression. But if you take everything into account and you put the pieces together to see how similar they are, you'll find that when you calculate the match percentage, they are a 92% match. That is kind of insane for like matching a real-world species of bee to one from a video game that is not only a robot, but has a buzzsaw on its back and exhaust pipes coming out of the side of its body. Anyway, the buzz is the carpenter bee, the Peacock Carpenter Bee specifically. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun researching this, and it really surprised me to find how close of a match there was for buzz. And if you want to see, any other species of Donkey Kong enemy, comment down below. I love taking your guys' suggestions, recommendations, whatever. Or if you guys even have other video ideas for me, let me know, please. And I love talking to you guys. It's a lot of fun. It genuinely is. I've been having a lot of fun doing this so far. And then also, if you like the video, leave a like. Subscribing would also be very nice. It would be very cool. But yeah, that's about it. See you guys in the next one. I'm gonna take care of these goddamn bees now. Fuck!